Hey guys, so I wanted to just come back on here and kind of emphasize a point. I've made a video some weeks ago discussing institutionalized racism and how it looks, as well as some ways that you can fight against it. I really want to instill this point because I had a conversation earlier, and it was a good conversation, but it gave me a number of different perspectives. I think there's a number of different ways that we can essentially fight white supremacy, but I think a number of different things need to be taken into consideration as well. Number one, the establishment of systematic racism wasn't created overnight. This is a carefully well thought out plan that a lot of work and a lot of knowledge of psychology was required in order to implement it and maintain it, which is what we have today. And I think what we're living in is a product of that because, again, I always say that white supremacy or the illusion of it cannot exist without our participation as Black people, because someone has to be subjugated in order for someone to be empowered. And unfortunately, right now, we are the ones that are being subjugated, and that's because they're the psychological war that had to take place in order for us to get to the point that we don't even feel like it's to our benefit to fight back. We're really at a point to where we think that the benefit is allowing our oppressors to continue to oppress us and not fight against it. And what I really want to say, and I hope people take it into consideration, is that we really need to get into the habit of fighting white supremacy. And that doesn't necessarily mean physical, because you can fight in a number of different ways. The reason I say that is because right now, the Black community isn't in a position to actually establish and maintain businesses. There's a lot of reasons why that wouldn't be successful. Number one, you have to consider that your empowerment and your building of a community and being empowered to have successful businesses is to the detriment of white supremacy. We can look back at the Tulsa, Oklahoma, and the Black Wall Street, and that should give you your example. If you think that because we're in 2015 that mentality has changed, then you're fooling yourself, and your mentality is part of the problem, and it's also part of the reason why white supremacy is still thriving. I do not feel like white people are supreme in any way, shape, or form, but they have been successful in creating the illusion that they are supreme, and that's because they wage psychological warfare on the minds of the Black community. It's far more beneficial to have someone psychologically enslaved than to have them physically enslaved. And so that's what we're living in. We're living in the manifestation of psychological slavery. And you can contest this as much as you want to, but it is what it is. That is the reality of it. I experience it and I live it every day when I go to work for a corporation where I have a company that literally is comprised of a lot of white women trying to assert their dominance over Black women. Because if you think that white women are any different than white men, then you're sadly mistaken, because you then have to consider the fact that white women are the ones raising the white men into the white supremacist mentality that they have. So the white women have that mentality as well. And when they get around certain Black women that they feel might be a threat to them, then they're going to do whatever they can to sabotage their progress and to try to assert their dominance. Because if Black people do not feel subjugated and inferior, white people cannot feel superior. And in order for them to feel superior, then they have to go through necessary steps. Just like with white men, the more they feel like their power is threatened, the more aggressive they become, which is how you have it resulting in mass amount of Black men being killed. You also have a mass amount of Black people, along with some white people, defending the death of a lot of Black people. So they're illustrating the extent to the mental slavery. And quite frankly, I'm getting tired of the degree of mental slavery, and I get tired of the oppression. And the reason why I say that you need to get into the habit of fighting white supremacy, because the only way we're going to establish success as a group is if you continue to fight white supremacy. Now, being that most Black people are not in the position to have their own businesses, and for those businesses to be successful, because you have to believe that if a certain amount of Black people establish businesses and are successful, you can guarantee that the system that is white supremacy is going to sabotage that progress. You have to anticipate that. So the reason that I say you need to get into the habit of fighting it, because if you don't start fighting it now, you're going to have the same problems when you get to the success of owning your own businesses. But I digress to my main point. The reason I say that is because what I am dealing with right now at the company that I work at is a perfect example of systematic white supremacy. And I will give you a number of ways that that's occurring. I work for a company that literally every management or lead position is occupied exclusively by white women or white men. There aren't any other people in any managerial positions. There is one supervisor at the company that I work for, and he is a half black man. Okay, he may or may not even identify himself as a black man. He is literally 2 shades away from being white. However, he is very different from white people. So they'll have these tokenized positions where they'll put one black person in those positions, and then everyone else is white. So I work for a company that is predominant, that is the management are occupied by white women. The thing of it is a lack of diversity is not accidental. It is very much intentional. And that's why when I go back to when I spoke about the Oscars, I don't understand why people keep getting confused about these situations. When you get confused and disappointed, that is a sign that you don't understand who you're dealing with. These things do not surprise me because I understand the mentality of the people who designed this system. How and why I got to understanding the mentality, I don't know, but I fully understand the mentality of what we're dealing with, and therefore anything that happens as a result to that white supremacist mentality is of no surprise to me. You also have to understand that in order for this system to have been established, they had to study you. You cannot conquer a group of people without eating, sleeping, and breathing how to accomplish that task of conquering that group of people. So white supremacists didn't establish even slavery just by some impromptu plan. This was something where they actually studied who they were dealing with. They studied their psychology. They studied the strengths. They studied the weaknesses. And that is how they came to be able to conquer that group of people. They are still doing that. They have a very, very, very good understanding of psychology. And in order for us to combat this system, we're going to have to understand their psychology. That's why I keep putting out their pathology in you guys' face, because you need to understand who you're dealing with in order to conquer it. Now, what I could do at my job is I could very well, because I am highly qualified, I could very well get up and leave and go to another company. It would be very easy for me to do that. However, what am I showing when I do that? When I know that I have systematic white supremacy taking place at a company that I work for. When I have a company that clearly is showing based on their lack of diversity that they do not value black people. I have consistently performed above anyone on my team. I'm a top performer, not just on the team, but in the company. So I just did a year-end review after sending in a complaint about a supervisor's racial discrimination against me, and this company allowed this same supervisor to write my review, which in the end is going to be to my benefit and to their detriment, because in this review she clearly illustrated her racial bias by literally making whatever she could about my performance, any part of that review that was up to her interpretation, she made it negative. And that is what happens when you deal with people who are white supremacists, because this lady, for whatever reason, and she doesn't know me personally, she's not basing it on my actual work performance, because again, my actual work performance is above the company standards. Get out of the mentality, black community, that you're begging someone for a job. Number one, there are federal laws that are set into place that says that your employer cannot treat you worse than your white coworkers. So get out of the mindset that by fighting against the injustices that they create against you, that you're somehow trying to beg someone for a job. Your ancestors built the country, okay? Understand that America cannot be the most successful country had it not been for the backs of your ancestors. That's number one. So do not feel like if you go into a job and you are a token black person that they are somehow doing you a favor. They're not doing you a favor. Your ancestors already did them a favor, because if it weren't for your ancestors, they wouldn't have the company that they have today. So I don't have the mentality that they're doing me a favor by letting me work there. That is the very least that they could do, because number one, they should be giving you reparations so that you can establish your own company. That's number one. They've given it to every other group of people that they've oppressed except black people, which poses the question as to why. And that's because if they give you reparations, do you really think that they don't see that if you have the capacity to be successful under oppression during Jim Crow, when you establish Black Wall Street, that you wouldn't be more capable of doing that now? So do you really think that the whole point of not giving you reparations is for any reason aside from keeping you in a position that allows them to be superior? So you have to understand that, because you have to understand that if mass amount of black people go out and establish successful business and successful communities, they're going to set up ways to stunt that progress if you don't get into the habit of fighting white supremacy right now. And the way that you can do that is start doing it when you're in the corporation. You do not have to sit there and take disrespect from people just because you have a job there. I don't care if you run the company. You're not going to treat me as though I'm below you, because you're not doing me a favor by employing me. The least that you could do is be giving me the least that you can be doing is employing mass amount of black people. But when you go into a company that you already lack diversity, and then your tokenized black people are put in positions where they can advance, meanwhile you're only advancing white women, that's problematic. And if we don't fight against that, what we're doing is we're showing them that you can continue to do this and we're not going to fight you on it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stay there and I'm going to fight, and I'm going to take it as far as I need to take it, because at the end of the day, you're not going to put me in servitude, you're not going to subjugate me, and you're not going to try to assert your perceived dominance, white women, over a black woman just because you feel like you can. So that's what's not going to happen. I'm going to fight it every step of the way, and I'm going to take it as far as I need to take it, because at the end of the day, I'm not going to reinforce bad behavior. I'm not going to reinforce racist behavior. And when we don't fight against them, we're literally reinforcing their mentality. Because when you sit there and take it, you're just telling them, oh, you are superior to me. When you sit there and allow them to lie on you and create roadblocks for your progress, you're telling them that you are inferior to them. That's what you're doing. You're telling by action. So what you need to do and what you need to understand is that as a black person, you actually have a lot more power than you think you do. You may not feel like you have that power, and you may not feel like there's anything that you can do because there's at-will employment laws, but you also have to understand that there are federal laws that are set into place that said you cannot discriminate, you cannot retaliate against people. So the bottom line of it is you are doing the government a favor. Look at yourself as doing the government a favor, because you're actually trying to hold them accountable to the federal laws that the government set. Period. That is what you're doing. So my thing of it is you guys can think whatever you want to. You can say, oh, she wants to beg somebody for a job. Why would you beg them for a job when you can go get another one? What's going to happen is you're going to go to another company. You're going to deal with more racist white people. And then you're going to keep having the same problem because you're not fighting it. Together, black people, you have a lot of power. You may not be able to change anything individually, but understand that if you get with every black person at your company and you guys stand up to it and say, I'm not going to tolerate this treatment, it's going to change. They're not going to sit there and continue doing it if you hold them accountable to the laws that are set in place to hold them accountable. The only thing we're doing by not fighting is empowering them to continue their racist and systematic white supremacy. That is what we're doing. So you really need to, if you think that in the future you're going to set up some successful businesses and have black empowerment, and black group economics, then you need to get into the habit of fighting white supremacy on a corporate level, because you can best believe black empowerment and black group economics is a direct threat to the system of white supremacy, because once you're empowered, they can't have privilege, because if everyone is on an even level playing field, then no one's above anyone, and then you take away their self-esteem. Their self-esteem is dependent on you being subjugated and inferior. So right now, if you really want to do something, you really need to get into the habit of fighting systematic white supremacy. And if you keep your mouth shut, you're enabling it. You have to sit here and you have to speak out. It doesn't matter to me if I lose my job tomorrow, because at the end of the day, I'm still fighting against it. Really, if I lose my job tomorrow, that's actually beneficial to me, because then I can just go to the courthouse and file a lawsuit. So if that was to happen, then actually that would be to my benefit. Understand that the reason why I'm not gone from there is because they aren't able to do that legally, because I'm already setting up the necessary precedents and I'm building a case for racism. And the thing of it is, if you document everything, file complaints, dot all your I's and cross all your T's, you will win. But you're not going to win if you don't fight. So stop thinking that you're begging them for a handout and that they're doing you a favor by employing you. You're not doing them a favor. Our ancestors already did them a favor, which is why they have their business. So at the very least, they owe you a position, and they owe you respect, and they owe to you the same opportunity as everyone else. And if they're not promoting you, and they're not promoting any minorities, you need to understand that that is intentional. Lack of diversity is intentional. It's not accidental. So you need to fight out against these systems. And if we don't start fighting these systems, if we don't continuously fight these systems, then we're just as guilty as the people who created it. So keep that in mind and understand that in order for you to be empowered, you have to fight. This system isn't designed to empower you. It's designed to subjugate you. And that's why we're being subjugated right now. If you don't fight, you will continue to be subjugated. Get in the comments. Let me know what you think. Do you agree or disagree? I know some people probably think I should just leave. I don't think I should just leave. I'm not a leave person. I have a fighter spirit. And so to me, it would stress me out more if I just got up and left. So I'm going to sit here and I'm going to fight. And you should fight too. Like, comment, and subscribe, and share the video.